Hello and welcome to another episode of Younger by the Minute. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie Speiser, and I'm always here with my lovely wife.
Jennifer Speiser, and today we are honored to sit down with Keith Waldrop, a retired Marine Raider from U.S. Special Operations and now the CEO of Asymmetric Solutions, which is a Missouri-based training company that prepares military, law enforcement, and even civilians to perform under the most extreme conditions. Keith's journey from the battlefield to the boardroom is a powerful story of discipline, adaptability, and leadership. He brings decades of experience in building mental toughness, physical resilience, and lifestyle systems that don't just apply to combat. They apply to all of us that want to perform at our highest level every single day. And today we're going to dive into a little bit more of what it means to live with precision in your body, your mind, and the way you approach life.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's a pleasure. I'm really excited. My dad, Vietnam K-9 unit. I have a big passion and respect for military first responders. So I'm truly honored to have you sitting next to me. So,
I appreciate you having me.
um, Keith, I guess the first thing I'd like to know is just tell me a little bit about your background in special operations and how you feel that shaped your way and the way that you think when it comes to fitness and resilience in day-to-day life.
You want me to start from like the beginning prior to making it into special operations? You want me to start?
You can start wherever you want, bud.
Yes, I guess I'll start in the very beginning. I was born and raised here in Southern Missouri, small town called Caledonia, Missouri. Graduating class 28. We had an idea of how small
Yeah.
all it was. It's a very patriotic area. All I ever wanted to be was, a commando. That's what I originally was going to be. Try to be a Green Beret, Ranger Green Beret route. 9/11 happened, and the Marine Corps could get me out faster than the Army would. So I ended up jumping the Marine Corps route instead. Went Force Recon. Went to boot camp and all that stuff, and then tried out for Force Recon. Made it into Force Recon, and then eventually became a Raider, and then finished out my time as a Raider.
Got it.
So there's the quick summarization of kind of where I
Right.
came from and how I got in there. As far as how it shaped me, it's from high school until I joined. I was the kid watching VHS tapes of SEAL training and Ranger training and Marine boot camp and every Hollywood movie that existed that had to do with those types of guys, which is all I ever watched. So I really focused on, even as a kid, mimicking the things I would do. I grew up in the country, so
Right.
baling hay, working the farms, being physically fit was kind of a necessity to even, survive in that
100%.
where, my family was a construction family. So if I wasn't bucking hay and working cattle, I was running a shovel in a ditch, or machinery. And then, just carried that mindset of, be strong and don't quit and work long hours into the military. And then, special operations, the dedication and commitment and type of personalities that you come across, you meet there just further motivates you to refine yourself even more
Right.
and become those things. So
Yeah. I kind of relate to that. My mom's side of the family's from North Dakota. My uncle still runs the family farm up there. And we actually lived up there for 4 years. But, kind of hockey was kind of like shaped me hockey, boxing, and jujitsu.
yeah,
So you really learned that discipline and resilience. And, kind of like me and you were talking a minute ago, is like, people always get excited when they start like a new program, whether it's a fitness program, nutrition program, whatever it might be. But it's like they forget that life is still going to happen. And until you get into that mindset and that start building those habits, um, they're likely going to probably fail within the first 30 days. So coming from like your background with that, there's probably a big transition for you when you went from spec ops to CEO. So how did that carry over for you?
so it's the same mindset, kind of what you were saying. I mean, you don't ever really fail unless you quit.
Correct.
I mean, there is no failure without quitting, and there is no losing. It's learning. So
I love that.
every loss becomes a learning lesson. And, you never truly fail unless you give up. And you can keep trying forever and ever and ever. If you die, then you never really failed.
Right.
You just died trying.
Right.
So, that mindset is the foundation of special operations. Is you can throughout the selection process, that's what they're trying to push you to as a breaking point to see if you're willing to quit. Because the only thing that will truly keep you from making it is, aside from academic failure, so you do have to have a certain amount of brain power
Right.
to get in there, obviously.
And
And
for
if you
critical thinking.
right, and if you don't meet you don't meet the criteria to show
The
that
one plus one. Yeah.
you could think and be strong, then you can lose it for that. But
Right.
when it comes to the strength adaptation and the mental mindset, it's all about they will break every single person's selection at some point.
Yep.
And I've told a million people that, when they ask what's the hardest thing about selection, the water is the hardest thing about selection. The water is the great equalizer, because it doesn't matter how big you are, how strong you are, how fast you are, how much endurance you have, how long you've been a swimmer. The water will overtake you.
Yep.
You will eventually succumb to the power of the water, and you will drown. And there's a completely different feeling associated with extreme fatigue and physical exhaustion from carrying a ruck or lifting weights, or where it's just pain and just hunkering down and pushing through the pain, and just more and more, and you hit that exhaustion, you go. When you're underwater and your oxygen has been taken from you, there is no finding more oxygen.
No.
It's gone.
Yeah.
So at that moment in time, throughout the process, there's guys that mentally break because they lose sight of the fact that you're in a controlled environment where you may pass out, you may potentially die if things go wrong and they don't
Get to you quick enough.
if it get to you quick enough.
Yeah.
However, there's a high probability you're going to be okay. So you're willing to roll the dice on potentially dying, and that's the mental mindset that they're looking for in those communities.
Yeah.
Because no matter how bad it got, when you truly thought you were going to die, you didn't quit.
Right.
And if you can find those the people, then they make it in those communities. That mindset, once you've experienced that and done that and truly tested your ability as a person, I think it changes you forever at that point. If somebody hasn't been pushed to that limit, then they never truly know what their mental capacity is. So being able to experience that and then carry it over to your question, long answer to your simple question, to the CEO side is, one, is it going to cost me my arms, legs, eyes, ears, or life? The answer is no. It's not that bad.
Right.
I can keep pushing through all of it.
Right.
It ain't going to matter to me.
Good point.
If I may I interject? I
Yeah. Go ahead.
The one thing that just kept coming back to me from a place that I can relate to it is when as an injector and dealing with people's anatomy, or as a medical provider and dealing with people's physiology, you might think that you know the path, but then when it's not the right path, you have to retract, reposition, reintroduce whatever you're trying to do. And it's the same thing. Like we're all onions and we're all able to peel these layers back. And in order to realize that you have the mental fitness or the mental capability to keep going, no matter what it is, you have to break.
You have to.
Because then when you get to that point again, you're not afraid to break again. So it's that breaking down of everything to then keep going, whether it's with what your experience was or yours or your dad's or my dad's or myself. Like, that's just it. And I think a lot of people, until they've been put into something where they have to fully immerse and fully commit, and then they're afraid because they don't know what's going to happen when they break.
Yeah.
Right.
And I was going to bring up the fact you brought up water doesn't care what size you are. Neither does fear.
No.
Fear doesn't matter if you're a big muscle guy or you're a little guy. The funny thing is too, like going through selection, you always hear how it's the smaller guys, the 185 guys that what do they call them, the Smurf crew sometimes.
Yeah.
They're the ones they're outperforming these guys that are 6'2" and jacked.
Yeah.
So, when fear kicks in is when people will shut down. And that can be, all the way down to someone's weight loss journey, the fear of failing, the fear of what other people will say because they didn't complete it, the fear of what other people think in general. And I can speak on precision. The company changed when I learned how to address fear. And when I stopped using fear, which motivated me to make poor decisions, react in the wrong way, say the wrong things. Any one of those things could have cost me my company at any point in time. But now I use fear as a motivator, because now I'm like back in, now I find solutions. Now I focus on the solution, not the problem. So I think, overcoming that fear, and I can only imagine like what you guys did, but I think that was probably, I would have to assume, a big reason why you're successful at what you do now.
I would agree. I think I'm a big quote guy.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes is, Man in the Arena by Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And that is basically addressing everything you're talking about. It's, if somebody could adopt the mindset of the willingness to try and fail again, like it says in there, he'll never lay with those cold and timid souls, and no neither victory nor defeat.
Right.
There should be no fear in failure, because again, like we said at the beginning of this conversation, there's no failure without quitting.
Yeah.
You're going to fail. And with every failure, you're going to learn, and then you can come back. As long as you keep trying again and again, whether it's financially impactful negatively,
right,
physically impactful negatively, or whatever the case may be, knowing that you can recover from that and then learn from the lessons of the previous failure is how you ultimately succeed.
That's what I was going to bring up.
Surrendering, I think. And how do you survive the water? Do you have to surrender?
You just accept the fact that, you mentally tell there is no beating the water.
No,
It's
you
just
just have to
impossible.
let it let it
You
flow,
have to
literally.
accept the fact that I'm going to fight this as long as I can, and no matter what I have to do, I'm going to go out fighting.
Mhm.
And that mentality doesn't just apply. That's an extreme case when you compare it to the water because it's loss of life potentially. But when you apply that to everything in life, the same principles apply.
Right.
I'm not gonna give up until I'm bankrupt. I'm not gonna give up until I run out of oxygen.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna give up until I literally don't have a penny left in my bank and I have nothing. There's just no giving up. Something is going to prevent me from pushing forward that's out of my control.
And I think that's a really big thing missing in society right now. People are so quick to get a divorce versus working on their marriage, doing it. They just think if I just move on to the next thing, I can still behave and act in the same ways that caused my divorce to go to hell.
Right.
If I don't like my job, then I'll just switch jobs, but doesn't you don't realize that you have to apply yourself at that job, the next one, no matter what you do. Like you just can't go through life half-assing it and thinking things are going to get better for you. So
Well, we live in a society now where everybody deserves,
yeah,
whether they've worked for it or sacrificed for it or not, unfortunately. So to your point, again, the jobs or the divorces or whatever, instead of being looked at as a hardship or a problem to overcome that you can learn from and then overall change and fix,
Mhm.
it's why take the time to work on this when I can just shift gears and get this for free,
Right.
get this
Mhm.
easier, get this
Absolutely.
easier, because the options do exist
Yeah.
in today's society.
And to flip it on that, I think some people don't, we are so ingrained to want to fight for so long that we're being stubborn and not realizing that
True.
that
Very true.
keeping the wrong employee for too long, staying in the wrong relationship for too long. God knows I did that. You do stuff like that. Um, trying to
Failure.
yeah,
Yeah.
trying to force something and not realizing that it's okay to shift gears.
Yeah.
You know,
And there's a difference in failing and shifting and redirecting.
correct.
Because like you said, from a relationship standpoint, I use that as an example because you said you stay in a relationship too long. Because probably because the type of person you are is somebody doesn't want to lose, doesn't want to fail.
Yeah.
And a relationship ending is a failure in some capacity.
Yeah.
It could be looked at that way when the reality is if it's negatively impacting your life and then, it's an anchor to you or it's something that's slowing your progression or making you a worse off person, that's not a failure to get away from that.
No,
It's a win to get
it's a
away
win.
from that because you've been able to identify that reality and remove yourself from the negativity in that cancerous environment. So I think that's also easily confused with again, mindsets with people because not everything is a failure just because in the relationship's a perfect example because
Yeah,
there is times when it's just time to walk away.
it is. Yeah.
That's not a failure. It's just the smart thing to do.
And I'm hearing you, and I have never experienced what you've experienced. And so, but do you feel like when you were going through training, or when you were in some of the the biggest situations on the battlefield or whatever, when you have nothing else to turn to, don't you think that that's when you learn the most about yourself?
100%.
And so, in order to be able to discern whether or not you should stay or you should go, whether it's a relationship or a business move, you have to know yourself. You have to have that relationship with yourself. And I think back on us and when we went and did ayahuasca, that was the scariest thing that I've ever done,
Mhm.
besides bodybuilding, where I really had to commit and just pull everything back and you rip everything away from you. That's a comfort measure. And people have a hard time, like when it comes to nutrition, it's because it's a comfort. That food is masking some sort of thing that they don't want to deal with. Food's, an emotional thing. And so I think the first thing is like really having a relationship with yourself before you start something. Is this really what you want? And are you willing to commit all in?
Yeah, and if you don't truly want something, you're not going to commit.
No,
No.
right?
You have to. You have to know what you really want and know what you're willing to put into it to do it. That's why you got to do ayahuasca.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's done in our community. That's a big thing now.
Yes.
It's resetting. It's been. I've never done it, but I've looked into it heavily and I've thought about it.
Changed my life.
Everybody I've talked to, every half of it that I've served with, it's went down, said it changed their life, and it's
Psilocybin and ayahuasca. And,
Yeah.
and we'd be happy to talk to you more about it if you wanted to hear about it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, it's
yeah.
really, it's kind of scary on the same front because everybody says it changes you.
It
And
does.
you really don't know
But
what the
it's still who
that
you
never
are.
had a negative impact.
Yeah.
No, my biggest fear was like going in and seeing faces and like it all being relived right there.
Yeah.
But the reality is like I knew my body was going through things and I know that I was going through stuff, but I never saw the faces. I never saw the things that were actually caused the issues that I have, the anger, the fear, the resentment, and all that stuff. It literally just it changed everything about me. But yeah, highly recommended to anybody with that. But it's also, I'm a big component. I work with the Power of Hope EEC down in Steelville. I've created a DEP program to help guys or girls that are stuck in the DEP program of the military. We can fast track them through a little bit faster. But again, we're always coming back to, even with ayahuasca, we're back to the mental state. Everybody wants to focus on the physical side of it, which is good, but the physical is will override the mental. The mental is what gets you through it. And going back to my bodybuilding and even playing hockey, I used to play this game all the time. Like when that 8-week cod diet I did, I ate egg whites in the morning and the evening, and I ate 8 cod meals, and that's all I ate for 8 weeks.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. I'm doing 45 minutes of cardio at night, 45 minutes of cardio in the evening. I'm training for 90 minutes. She's telling me I need to go find an extended state to live in because this isn't working. But I was just telling myself, like, if this was the only thing on earth left to eat, like if the world went to crap and this is it, it wouldn't matter if I wanted McDonald's or Cheetos or Ding Dong. It didn't exist.
So you created that in your head.
So I created
Yeah.
a mental fortress within my head to keep myself from caving. And it's the same thing, with working out. There's levels to your ability to perform. That's all. I sometimes don't even count reps. Like my reps count when the pain starts. So if it could be 20 reps in and it's like, now that's where the pain, I'm like, all right, you got 20 more.
Right.
Because I'm trying to build a stronger fortress in my brain, which then serves me, like you had said, serves me in business, serves me in my relationship with our family, friends, in all areas,
Everything.
So,
Everything.
um, so at Precision, we believe fitness is about precision and consistency. We're not a quick fix. I don't think any of them are, but from your perspective, what separates short-term motivation from building a sustainable lifestyle?
Habit and repetition.
Yep.
Short-term goals are never, short-term actions that are not planned out to be long-term goals will never ever become anything for the most part. Nothing is going to become a routine for you or consistent unless you do it long enough for it to become natural.
Right.
And a habit. So, the difference, is exactly that, is doing it long enough to create the habit and then feeling the benefits of your work and efforts, and then realizing that the benefits of it far outweigh not doing it in the long term.
Right.
I would think that would be
And I think the one thing I'd probably add to that is you got to have accountability. And I think that comes around with who you surround yourself with, and do you have a team? And obviously from your operating days, your team and accountability was everything, because you had to depend on the guy to the left and to the right to make sure everybody came home safe.
And you surround yourself with people that are better than you.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's on a point. So your team is one. You don't want to let anybody down in your team.
Yeah.
You don't want to let down your partner. You don't want to let down your kids. You don't want to let down anybody that's important to you and your team. And in the environment I come from, your team is everything, because you letting them down potentially could result in a loss of life or a life altering, maiming or injury that could affect not only them but their family back home in the long run. So the constant betterment of self never ends when you're in that environment, because the people you're around never stop constantly trying to better themselves. So when you're in that cycle of everybody's bettering themselves, if you're not, you quickly start to deviate away from the circle and you become a liability to the team.
Yep.
And nobody wants to become a liability to the team, especially when your focuses are aligned. So that's probably one of the hardest things to transition out of when I got out, is living that world for almost 15 years and then getting out here and no longer being, for a short period of time, now that I'm at Asymmetric going, I'm in the same personalities and around that. But there was, a 9-month process where I tried to be a regular guy for a period of time, to try to, give my wife and kids a normal life and not be gone 8-9 months out of the year every year and that type of stuff. And that was the biggest thing that not only me, but even the guys that work for the company now and any other company like ours, try to seek out, is surrounding themselves with like-minded individuals like we had in that team environment. And it's really hard to find out here. So
Yeah, I can relate, because I've always made sure that I trained with people that were stronger than me.
have to.
When I played hockey, I'd always play and got with guys that were older than me. I always did that because that's the only way I could ever get better. The next question I would have is, there's some misconceptions, and you'll probably appreciate this, with people that think that being fit or being tough. How would you kind of speak on that? Because I think people have the perception of, if I do this, then I'm this. And so it's like, if I train like However, then I'm automatically going to be tough, or I'm automatically going to be strong.
Yeah.
But I think you
There's
probably have some insight on that.
yeah, there's a saying that guys in our community joke about all the time. Tattoos and a bad attitude don't make you a badass. Which is a common misconception out here. In the biker world, and I ride bikes.
Yeah.
Been on a Harley guy my whole life. My whole family is Harleys and all that. And anyways, it's really big in that community because the perception that he's a biker,
Yeah.
dude's got to be tough. When the reality is, I mean, there's some tough ass bikers out there.
Yeah.
They're wrong.
Yeah.
But there's also smoking 20 years, fat, out of shape.
Yeah.
Looks like a tough dude, but the minute you go to trading blows with him, he lasts about 5 seconds, and you can tangle that dude up really fast, right? So the bad attitude and tattoos don't make you tough. So the mentality on the flip side of that, there's lots of guys who are not physically fit, but
Yeah.
are super super tough because their mindset is
Mindset.
what it is.
Yeah.
You can be a gym rat, ripped up, look like something off the cover of Men's Fitness, and be a complete bitch, for lack of a better term. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
I mean, it's, again, all show, no go. Mindset. It's like, and a lot of times that's the reality in those words, depending on what it is they're using for nutrition and cardiovascular training. Preach to the choir in this front, but again, I think there's a statistic out there right now. You can look it up. They're like, in modern times, 2025, it's like less than 20% of the male population has ever been punched in the face or been a physical altercation in the United States of America. Less than 20%.
Yeah.
So when you look at that from a gambling standpoint, the reality is, if you encountering somebody who really knows how to handle themselves, even though they're talking a big game and they got big muscles and tattoos and ride a Harley, the chances of them actually knowing how to do much are pretty fucking slim.
Yeah.
The odds are in your favor. They're just a big mouth until you punch them in the face.
Nobody likes to get punched in the face.
No. Just like Mike Tyson said.
Yeah. And my dad's saying was always, big mouths turn into soft asses.
What is Mike Tyson's like, everybody's gonna plan until
Yeah.
that's what you always say.
Everyone got plans to get punched in the face.
And then your Boston thing was always softer than a sneaker full of shit. So
Yeah.
It's so yeah, I mean, there's a big difference between being in shape and being tough. There's lots of in shape fit people that are tough. There's lots of in shape fit people that are not tough, and there's lots of not fit in shape people that are tough, because the toughness is
mental. Yeah.
mental. It's 100% mental. Tank Abbott.
Yeah.
Tank Abbott. I mean, look at you look at that guy, you think that son of a bitch ain't gonna last longer than 30 seconds. He's gonna be gassed out. I mean, he's a beast, but like, you think he'd gas out in 30 seconds?
No.
That guy's got a tank that never ends.
Yeah. He's like a diesel with 100 out.
He just runs and runs and runs. So to just go off the top of my head, I think he's a great example to where
That's a good one.
He's not fit by any stretch of the imagination when you look at him from a fitness standpoint, but he is a tough nigger, and
He went the distance.
Yeah,
Multiple times.
he goes the distance.
Yeah. So we're living in a world right now. I'm even guilty of it to an extent. It's getting up at 4 a.m., doing a cold plunge, doing this, doing that, blah blah blah. Right. So how do you balance intensity with recovery, and then also how do you not burn out? And I'll get into the burnout thing because I have my own belief system on that. But so when you don't burn out and you stay at peak performance, like, what does your routine kind of look like for that?
Yeah, so I mean, staying at peak performance is really difficult. It's just like a business. A maintenance phase of performing at your peak can't be sustained forever.
Right.
There's a peak, and then there's a maintenance, and there's either decline that goes back up to a peak or a new established peak. So, I mean, everybody burns out at some point. The balancing it, I don't balance it well. That's why I have so many injuries and things that have happened, because when the doc says you got to rest, you got to recover, some way things are gonna get better, and then you're like, all right, he's like, well, how long? Rest for the next 3 to 5 weeks, and 5 days into, I can't do this anymore.
We're not wired that way.
And and you can't. You feel lazy. You feel like a piece of shit. So, to keep from just giving up and stopping, it's kind of like your example earlier. You established if all the food didn't exist,
Right.
and all I had was this, I know I could make it, and I'm going to pretend like it doesn't exist. I've done the same thing. One, I talk to myself a lot. It's just funny because my wife's even like, weird, you talk to yourself all the time. I'm like, yeah.
As long as they don't answer, we're good.
It's all sporty.
As long as they don't answer, we know we're okay.
Answer.
I'm the guy that's in the gym by myself with my headphones in, and like, I get to, rep 8 or whatever. And I had a 12 rep goal, and I'm like, don't be a bitch. Don't be like talking to myself.
Yeah.
Don't be a pussy. Don't give out. You could do 12. Don't be a bitch. And same thing running. If I'm training for an event, or if I'm running, it's like, plan on doing 8 miles, 10 miles, whatever the case may be. and you get to that mile 3 and you're like, this sucks. I drank too much last night. And then same thing, you talk to yourself, don't be a bitch. And I use the comparative, I'm wrapping it back around your McDonald's comment about not having food available. And I think I do this just because of the environment I came from, but I think of the guys in Vietnam, like, and the Dungey pits and the POW camps that were stuck in these holes, and they were starved, and they were mistreated, and they were tortured for years and years and years, and just kept fighting and kept going and never gave up. And I think if those guys can do that, why am I second guessing
Anything.
anything? Anything? Why am I bitching out on a 5-mile run? Why am I bitching out on 2
That's
more
powerful.
runs? Why am I doing that? Like, better yourself to better your country, better yourself to better your family, better yourself to better everything.
I love that.
That's
Anything,
powerful.
anything that you do to increase your abilities as a citizen of the United States or as a member of your family betters this country, betters your family.
Yeah.
You're more capable, you know.
I'm gonna cut you off. Like, that's what you would do though. Like when you were doing your cardio, it's like, okay, you'd almost put yourself in these mock situations.
Mhm.
Now when I'm lifting to try to get, because I've been kind of checked out when I'm going through the motions, but now it's like, okay, if I want to say that I can be the best, provider or the best leader, then I can do these reps. Like
Yeah.
you can equate it to everything. To that though, do you ever allow yourself to have a moment where you do feel weak?
I like to say no. My wife had, grabbed
Maybe
me about this.
vulnerable would be
Yeah, vulnerable, not
vulnerable.
vulnerable.
Yeah. I don't know. I know you should be vulnerable to a certain degree, but I don't know. I also don't agree with a lot of the modern day mindsets of men should be vulnerable and cry and all this bullshit that people talk about. You should to a certain degree, but at the same front, like, and I use this. Let me try to put this in an example. As a special operations guy with a bunch of deployments and having the title that I had and the person that I was, I have a moral obligation to maintain a certain presence and ability for the rest of my life because I am the example for the future generations potentially want to be who I was. No kid wants to look at a Raider, a Delta Force guy, a SEAL on YouTube crying, talking about suck starting a pistol and doing drugs and being fucked up for the rest of his life because of what he did overseas.
Right.
Who wants to be that? Nobody wants to be that. That guy might have those problems. And some of the guys in our communities do end up with those problems.
Yeah.
But there's ways to deal with that internally and to be vulnerable in the right,
In a controlled
in a
group.
controlled group, in a,
Yep.
in a controlled environment.
Yeah.
So I don't allow myself to be vulnerable to very many people at all. Maybe to my wife and kids on occasion every now and then throughout our time. However, I don't do that because of the environment I come from and the fact that I very much believe in what I just told you, and that for every kid that sees a weakened state of somebody from our world, it sets back the vision they had of what we were
Right.
and what they potentially could become.
Right. And then look what it does in the military.
And it destroys the military. So again, I say that all the time. I get super aggravated with guys from our community that get on these YouTube channels and all this stuff, and they put out some of the problems that do exist in our realm,
Right.
but should never have been put out
In the first place.
in the first place because of what I just told you. We have to have future fighters in the United States of America. We have to have future soft guys. We have to have future admin guys. But in our realm, movies are made about the guys who are community.
Right.
Yeah, there's this perception,
Yeah.
and whether it's real or it's inflated or not, that perception is what brings those mentalities, those personalities into that environment and creates some of the best fighters in the world. And how many men or how many boys have been pushed away from becoming what they potentially could have become
Because of that.
because of that?
Yep.
Because either they seen it and said, "I don't want that to be me if I become that," or their father or mother said, "Do you really want this to be you? Do you really want to do this?" And they're projecting, they're telling them, "Don't be this." So, again, long answer to your simple question. I think it's important to be vulnerable occasionally, but I also believe that as a man, especially a leader that is looking to be a man amongst men, that you have to minimize your vulnerabilities.
I actually love that because you're talking about self-control even in a moment that you want to not have it, right? So you're doing it in a way that's responsible. And, maybe everybody isn't wired the same, but you're right, like to have an obligation. Like think about an ER doc. If he has days where he probably goes home and he's lost too many patients that day. But with that, him talking about that will deter somebody else from doing it. And think about all the lives that were saved. I just got goosebumps talking about that. Like that's a very good way to put that. That's actually going to affect me because sometimes when I get in my head, it's like, okay, you got to get out of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, me and you struggled about that a little bit at the beginning because I spent 15 years in the nightclub working security.
Mhm.
So I was brawling every Thursday, Friday, Saturday night.
Yeah.
And so that came out, and I was like, she wasn't used to someone who was so protective, but also so just, I had no impulse control. Like I'd jump in just like that. And she's like, you need to chill out. But it's just like, no, I can't
Yeah.
because I know the outcome if I do. That means, and like you were bringing up, why do I train? Why do I do the things I do? It's because I need to protect her.
Right.
That's my first and foremost responsibility is to protect her from anything and everything. And I can't let my guard down for nothing or no one.
Right.
So totally relate to that.
It's the price you pay. It's the price you pay to be who you are. There's a price to be paid for every level you set yourself up to, and that price is a sacrifice for you as an individual.
Yeah.
It has to be. So it's again in our world. I don't want to talk. I don't want to get on this.
Yeah.
I'm not a big proponent of PTSD because I don't really believe. I believe 99.9% of cases that are bullshit.
John Mack of the strike.
I don't believe in it at all. I do believe in memories.
Yeah.
Memories are gonna be there forever.
Yep.
You hurt somebody, you're gonna remember it. You get hurt, you're gonna remember it. You kill somebody, you're gonna remember it. Your friends get killed, you're gonna remember it. If you were there, you did. Those memories are never gonna go away.
Right.
That's a reality. Because you remember those things, means your brain functions properly. That's why you remember them. So when you hear this bullshit of I can't get it out of my head, that's why I can't control myself and my emotions and all this crap where guys are like, I just can't control it. That memory is never going to go away. That's the price you pay for doing what you did. And that's what you have to keep under control. It's not that there's something wrong with you because you remember it. You're like, I use the example, I got a big scar on my knee from a bad bicycle wreck when I was 8 years old, gravel road,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I remember that wreck vividly. I remember rolling. I remember everything. Does that mean I have PTSD from that? And bad mood days? No, it just means it was a traumatic experience that I'll remember forever. And when I do think about it, it's because something happened in the environment around me to make me reference back to that because the brain is functioning properly. It says, hey, remember this happened a long time ago and you don't want this to happen again.
It's survival.
It's survival is exactly what it is. So that's the price you pay when you do things that separate you from the rest of the population and make you a bigger, faster, stronger, smarter man than other men. And you have to, like I said, control the outputs that are a byproduct of those inputs that were put into you,
Yeah.
making you who you are.
I think you wrote on quotes. I think that's where that quote of life is happening for me, not to me. I can look back, like I can look negatively back on those 15 years of working and look what it did to me. It made me have social anxiety, made me this, maybe that, but it's also at the same time, I am who I am.
Yeah.
It makes me, I can protect her. It has served me well throughout my life, so if I learn how to rewire and relook at things and look at it, like there's positives that have come out of this, even in the worst of the times, still focus on that.
That first example where you said the victim mindset.
Yeah.
The alternate is the alternate.
Right.
It's a positive growth mindset.
Yeah.
And everything that happened to me in my life up to this very moment put me right here.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's
even as mad as at my dad as I was as a kid growing up, he's exactly why failure is not an option for me.
Yeah.
Because my whole life for a long time, I was proving like I will show you.
Yeah.
Like, I was
and
like,
it's a great mentality to have.
Yeah.
Even though it's a byproduct of, like I said, being mad at your dad.
Right.
It served you well.
but it's like he served the role that the way I look at it now, like everything, he served the role he was supposed to serve to make me who I am.
As a father.
Correct.
Yeah.
And whether I agree with it or not, it has served me well.
Yep.
And that's how, kind of have to kind of look at it. Kind of switching gears just a little bit, but not too much. But, as a listener, as someone listening in wanted to start living with more precision today in their workouts, nutrition, or mental game, what's the first shift you would tell them to make?
Start with the easy stuff. There's Admiral McRaven has a speech called "Make Your Bed,"
Yeah, I love that one.
and it boils down to the reason why the speech is all around making your bed is because making your bed is one of the simplest things you can do in the morning when you wake up. It's a very simple task, and if you can't be relied upon to make your bed, what else can you rely on yourself, or can others rely on you for? So, if you're shifting gears and trying to make yourself more precise and more disciplined as an individual, starting with setting realistic goals and incrementally accomplishing them step by step versus trying to do too much all at once would be my opinion. So something as simple as, instead of getting up at various times every single morning, decide from this day forward, I'm going to get up at 5:50 in the morning every single morning. That's going to be my wake up every single. I don't care if it's Saturday, I don't care if it's Sunday. I'm getting up at 5:15. I'm going to maximize my day. And if you can just accomplish that and make that your routine, then once your 5:15 is set in place, now it's At 5:15, once I get up, I'm going to read 10 pages of a book, or I'm going to do X, or I'm going to do Y, and just incrementally build upon bettering yourself and making yourself more precise and creating those, like we talked about at the beginning, habits. Because once you've done it long enough, it just becomes a habit. Eventually, your alarm won't even go off, and you'll be waking up at 5:14, 5:13, as you probably know.
Yes, I do.
That's just reality. It's like funny. You open your eyes, you look at the clock. It's like, wow, I didn't even go off, and I'm up 60 seconds before it goes off. Because you've programmed yourself. It's become habit. So, to answer your question, that'd be my recommendation: is to not overwhelm yourself, because, like you said, everybody has different mentalities. Some people can handle an overwhelming amount of tasks all at once and then push through it and make it work, but that's not the norm. So take small incremental steps, set your wake up times, set your what you're going to do in your first 10 minutes, set your nutrition and the breakfast.
Yeah.
And then once breakfast nutrition is established, maybe transition it to what's my lunch nutrition or what's my fasting times, whatever the case may be, and just keep building on it. And then if you have a setback, pause, readdress the setback,
Yep.
get that in line. And then once that's a habit, then build upon that as well. That'd be mine.
Yeah, I think they call that in this generation stacking wins. Yeah.
Stack and
Or just it's compounding, just compounding wins.
Yeah, and it helps with the mental state, because, even though, like we said at the beginning, failure isn't truly a failure until you quit. Failures are setbacks and can feel like losses, and mentally can take a toll on you if you have too many of them back to back to back to back. And if you set small ones, then a small win is much better than
100%.
You said something that I wrote down. You program yourself. This is all about programming
Yep.
yourself. So you program the thought that you're going to have, the action that, like, you find the action that you want, the result that you want, and then you're going to program yourself. And you can choose to, like, have that moment of vulnerability, even if you think to yourself, like, that really sucked. But then how long are you going to hold on to that? So everything is about programming yourself to the way that you want to be. And that's what's going to shape you. And then the little wins release dopamine. And to Jamie, I know you believe that, burnout can be a dopamine deficiency from looking at phones and all that. So it's like, how can you switch and swap out little things to then stack the wins?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing with burnout, and I didn't really address that, was my philosophy on burnout is, in the working out means you're not taking care of yourself in other ways. You're not hydrating properly. You're not doing nutrition right. You're not optimizing your sleep. There's things you could be doing that could be causing, but then also I think I hear burnout a lot. Some employees will talk about burnout. Oh, I'm feeling burnt out. I'm like, no, you're bored.
Yeah.
Like, because if there's 5 new clients that walk through that door, would you be excited that they came in, or would you be like, no, I'm sorry, I'm burnt out. I can't take 5 new clients.
Yeah.
You're bored.
Yeah, you're getting loose and you're bored. You're right, and that's which also you put it that way, because that's exactly what it is. And I never realized that reality until I became a free fall parachuter, like in the free falling parachute. So even parachuting, once you've done it so many times,
Hmm.
it gets to a point where you're just like,
Okay, here we go.
like I'll never forget the first jump while I was still in the teams, because you have to jump, you continuously keep your jump pay going, and your
Yep.
hazards duty pays and all that stuff. And I remember a group of us sitting there waiting at the flight line to jump, and we were bitching. It was a Hollywood jump. It ain't like we were loaded with combat gear and everything. It was a slick jump just to go get our pay going. And we were bitching about being out there having to wait to go free fall parachuting for the day, because we were just
We're over it.
overdoing it.
Yeah.
Like, and that's parachuting, like one of the most extreme things people think could do. And it was like, I'll never forget, like, and during that conversation, we all sat there and kind of chuckled at each other, because, like, we're seriously bitching about having to jump out of an airplane and get paid to do it. Like, what the fuck is wrong
And
with
most
us?
people are paying a lot of money for this adrenaline rush.
What the fuck is wrong with us, man? And like a click, it's like there really is nothing out there that exists that if you do it over and over and over and over and never take a break from it, never give yourself some sort of rest and refit time period, that you won't eventually get.
And I do say that to people too, like, no matter how much you might love your job, if you do it long enough without a break, without a vacation, or changing gears, or trying to create it more interesting, yeah, you're going to get burned out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you can pace it if you can keep being innovative, which is what your company needs and your employees need in order to stay relevant in the game.
That's why, even though I'm big into physical fitness, I still drink alcohol on that cheat day. Because I'm like,
You're
I'm not drink alcohol. You kidding me? And salt. Fuck, I don't care about sodium. Like, I love salt. Like, those are small things that can make a big difference in my overall fitness and capabilities. But it's like, if I take those out, I'm miserable.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
yes.
Everything gets used to things. It gets stagnant. It gets complacent. Relationships, your exercise, your skincare routine, you have to change it up.
Yeah. Oh, I could go down a rabbit hole of salt and the misconception of salt with
He
people.
loves salt.
I love salt, man. Well, I mean, even know, like, there was a product that was made, Keto Force. Actually, I was working with the special op guys, he was over in Iraq at the time, and I didn't believe it, but I called him. He said, "Yeah, we got it over here," but it was just all your sodium bicarbonate, sodium magnesium, but it drives those guys into a fast, whether you had 200 grams of carbs the day before or not.
Mhm.
But it just put them in, and operators, you're not carrying around a cooler full of chicken and rice and potatoes. It's like you got a couple canteens of water with salt in it, and
Yeah.
you got to stay cognitively functional, and that's where salt plays in.
Yep.
But coming down to that, it's interesting how this is going into it. So, what are your non-negotiables when it comes to health and resilience in your life?
Non-negotiables. Um, I won't break away from a fitness routine ever. And that's one. Like, there's nothing, no matter the injury, no matter what's hurt, like, there's nothing that's going to keep me from working out, maintaining physical capability in some capacity. So that's a non-negotiable. I mean, I've blown my knees out. I've broke both my feet. I've wrecked my hands. I've broke my wrists. I've blown out my spine. I've done a million injuries.
Hmm.
I've never stopped working out ever. Like,
Yeah.
just because, call it fear, like the fear of being weak
Yeah.
is real.
That's 100% real.
And the injuries, you're already in a vulnerable, weakened state. And to allow yourself to go beyond that was just something I was never willing to do, no matter what the doctor said. And be honest with you, I'm in my 40s now, but when I was younger, and I still do it today. I mean, got injuries now,
Yeah.
but a lot of the pushing through it made me heal faster,
Yep.
actually, sometimes, and have more functionality and recover. Like, I blew my knee in, it's a 6 to 9 months because I completely MCL, ACL, meniscus, everything folded in half at sniper school. And then I took pieces of my hamstring and replaced my ligaments.
Oh yeah.
And
It's a fun one.
yeah, it was horrible. Yeah, it was a horrible. But anyways, they told me 6 to 9 months recovery. Yeah, and within 3 months, I was back to running a 3 mile PFT and passing L285. With my knee because of there ain't no fuck what. Because if I'd have taken 6 to 9 months, I got kicked off the teams.
Yep.
And I had an agreement with my team commander. Like, I said, if you give me 90 days, let me stay on the team. I'll pass a PFT in 90 days. Give me 90 days. And he gave me 90 days. And at the 90-day mark, I ran the PFT and ran first class PFT and passed it. But that was, again, back to the non-negotiable. Like, I'm never going to stop doing that. And I use like Arnold and Sylvester Stallone, those guys, and everybody talks about, those guys are on steroids and HGH. So I'm like, I don't give a shit.
No.
Look at that dude. Dude's like 81 years old, man. I don't care if that shaves 10 years off my life. If I look like that when I die, pump me up, Scotty. Like, whatever you got to do,
I've always been like that with, people will say, I'm like, hey, someone gave you a Lamborghini or a Toro, so would you take the Lamborghini? It's horsepower.
Yes.
Well, yeah, you still got to do the
You
work.
still have to train. You still
Yeah.
like you said, like steroids aren't going to magically make someone in
Yeah,
shape if they're doing
you
the
have to
work.
do the work.
Yeah.
So
They'll make
so,
you
yeah.
heavier, actually.
Right.
So that's one of the big non-negotiables. Anything that's, I got kids and all that stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot of family things that, I haven't been the best about prioritizing family over work and things like that. I think
It's a hard balance.
it's really hard. But I also think that's one of the sacrifices you make as a man in order to show that your family has a good life coming up. That's why being a grandfather, everybody's like, "Oh, so much better being a grandfather." That's because you made all the sacrifices with your kids
Yep.
and missed all that time. And now you're in a position because of the hard work you did to have more time with your grandkids. That's the reality of it. I don't think I've ever met a hardworking dad that didn't say, I regret all time this with my kids. Of course, you regret it to a certain degree, but if you look at it from, again, instead of the poor me, I missed out on my kids, I was doing what a man's supposed to do mindset.
Yeah.
It's very, very different.
Yeah, I was put in the gym when I was 13. It was a bodybuilding gym of all things, which is how I got into bodybuilding and training doing that. But, my biggest thing, I'm 52, was I always wanted to look like the 52-year-old guys in the gym. Like, and that guy wanted to look big and strong. And I did not want to look like the other guy that was over there hunched over a cane and doing stuff like that. But then also, coming back, I'm 12 years older than her. I still have a duty to protect her. So it's my responsibility to have to take care of myself. That's my non-negotiable. There is no option for, I have to do it. So I work on it all aspects of that.
Yeah, I guess one more thing from a mindset standpoint. So I talked about gym, but from a mindset, I will never blindly follow. That's a
I
non-negotiable.
like that.
I will never blindly follow anybody. I will always question and analyze any situation I'm in or any decision I had to make, and I will make my own decision, regardless of what my peers, the people around me, are going to do. I've taught my kids the same thing. Just being a follower is being a sheep.
Yep.
Yeah. And there's a place in this world for following. You have to be a good follower to a certain degree to eventually become a good leader, because that's just something you have to experience. However, I will never, ever not question anything, anybody who's giving me guidance, advice, or trying to push me in a certain direction when we're not questioning, blindly follow.
Yeah.
That is a so to your point, a mental mindset. That
Yeah.
is a non-negotiable that nobody's ever going to get me to just do anything.
I like that. And also from somebody whose parents had her really young, I have my work ethic because I watched them work. I don't have this thought of like, oh, my parents weren't there for me because they were working. Like I actually now believe I can achieve anything I want to achieve because I saw my mom do it.
Right.
And my dad worked a lot. I don't think it's a bad thing.
And you brought up something pretty important when you tore your hamstring out and your goal was to stay on the team. You had a really powerful why,
Yeah.
because that why was either I make it or I'm out.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing people forget too is when they set these goals, they don't focus in on a why. At least something that's not going to move the needle. Like in my world, people always say, "Well, I want to look better and feel better." Of course you do.
Mhm.
Who doesn't?
Mhm.
You want to make more money? Of course you do. But what are you willing to do and give up in order to get it? And that has to come with a powerful why.
The why is everything.
Yeah.
If you don't have a why, anything in life that you have, there's no purpose, there's no drive.
Yeah.
The why is everything.
Right. Well, as we wrap this up, I'd love to have the opportunity. Can you tell us a little bit about what Asymmetric is, who you serve, what you do, and what it's all about?
Yeah, so Asymmetric Solutions is it's a full spectrum defense contracting company. So what that means is we do contracts on behalf of the United States government and federal entities, training law enforcement and military personnel across the board. Our primary customer base is special operations personnel from active duty units. They come out to our private training locations where our cadre is comprised of also prior retired or long-serving members of the special operations communities, all of them combined. And they do high risk / focus specialty types training with our organization. That's the military side of the house. That's our primary clientele. Again, we have a place here in Farmington, one in Ojo Caliente, New Mexico, and one in Perry, Florida. And then in addition to that, we also have a law enforcement training sector. It follows directly in line. Same cadre, same teaching. We also have a bunch of retired cops and federal agents that kind of work for us. And they do the same thing. They come out to our locations to train, to learn specialty skill sets, refine current skill sets they have, and from the experienced cadre that we have, and also to get off of their routine. I'm kind of circling back to what we talked about, like they're going to the same range every single day, and guys get complacent, guys get bored with it. So they'll come out to a new location, they see a new potential way of doing things, have a new location, a new range, a new shoothouse, a new whatever to experience. So guys come out there and they do a lot of stuff with us. Then we have a civilian training sector that focuses on self-defense, family defense, property defense. We're not teaching a whole lot of offensive stuff and that stuff outside from hand to hand.
Right.
But everything is focused on from a defensive standpoint because from a civilian perspective, the chances of you getting in a gunfight are pretty slim.
Let's hope we don't.
Let's hope you never do. I mean, that's the country's ending, or the 0.0001% that you're the family getting mugged in downtown St. Louis and to protect yourself. And that does happen, but the percentages of it being you are small. So we teach that stuff just primarily to one, give back to the community, knowing that back to better yourself, better your country. The more Second Amendment law-abiding citizens that we have that know how to handle themselves, their gun, protect themselves and their family, the better off we are as a society.
Yep.
And the safer the people around them are in the event that they actually have to get themselves in engagement. So that's what we do on the civilian side, and on that piece of it, everybody gets background checks and all that stuff. So, and they're learning what's unique about the company on the civilian side is the cadre that teaches the active duty special operations personnel and law enforcement is the same cadre that teaches the civilians. We don't have segregated cadre
Got it.
that just teach civilians because there's just civilians. So
Right.
these guys are the gunfighters that are teaching the current gunfighters, again, teaching you how to protect yourself and your family, because there's a big difference in knowing how to shoot a gun and knowing how to fight a gun.
Yep.
And there's an even bigger difference in understanding the realities of when you should utilize a weapon system versus not utilize a weapon system, and the de-escalation of force and escalation of force that's necessary in the various situations you put yourself in, and force on force.
Yeah.
And the last piece of the company is we have a research and development logistical arm of the company that does, research and development, weapons testing and stuff like that for not only the government, but also private companies and entities and weapons manufacturers, stuff out there. So law enforcement, military, civilian, research and development, and then some high profile security.
Awesome. It's been a pleasure having you on. We really appreciate you taking the time. For anybody listening, I hope that you walk away with the fact that whether you're a fitness person, a CEO, a husband, or just trying to be overall better for yourself, it starts with a powerful why and a powerful mindset. You can have the physical presence there, but if you're not working on the mental strength, that's where you can really unlock and really change your life. So, Keith, thank you very much for being on the show. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, I appreciate you.
So,
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
and I'm Jamie Speiser. Thank you for another episode, and I'm out.
We're out.